Enoch, Blacksite Z-7, remote Montana. On paper, a low-risk storage site. At 0300 hours, it went dark. Every facility checks in hourly. Z-7 missed 2. At 3, it was declared compromised. An enforcement team was dispatched. They made contact within 30 minutes. Then they went dark also. Something happened at Z-7, but the higher-ups already knew. The wolf was at the door again. Wren had found them. And this time, he'd found the one he was looking for. Wren was already inside. He'd breached level 1 before anyone could react. No time for alarms. No time for outside contact. He struck hard, fast, like an animal on the hunt. Z-7 was standard Enoch design. No big towers. No windows. A structure built downward. The earth itself was camouflage. And a cage. The deeper you go, the colder it gets. The more forgotten. The more dangerous. But Wren wasn't afraid of the dark. He wasn't afraid of the danger. He was heading straight for it. On level 4, the scientists had gathered. 3 of them, hunched over a central array, surrounded by cold tablets, printouts, and still warm coffee. Security stood behind them, trained, alert, but not ready. They watched thermal cameras one by one go dark. They whispered about loss of comms from level 2. One feed showed a blur, but too fast to track. Remains were scattered like confetti across the halls. Scratches and gashes carved deep into the walls. Everyone on that floor had been briefed. Everyone knew about Washington. Wren was a Priority 1 initiative. And Z-7? It wasn't just another lab. It was leading research on how to capture, contain, and control him. They thought they had time. They thought that Enoch facilities were untouchable, that no one would be stupid enough to breach one. But they were wrong. Dead wrong.
BL-240 worked last time. If we make him a beast, we can outsmart him again.
He's already inside. Do we really want an animal loose in here? This isn't going to work.
Protocol says we should terminate on contact.
No. The board wants it contained. We can't kill...
The hell with that! I want to live.
If we kill it, we don't live either way. You forget your place in this organization.
Meanwhile, the guards were watching him, watching as he worked his way through their systems, their defenses, their men. The guards weren't there to protect the scientist. They were there for the data, to protect information, intelligence, not the people. Because that's how Enoch works. You're valuable until you're not. But protocol never accounted for Wren. A night vision feed crackled to life. The hallway looked still. Then, movement, just outside the infrared field. One frame caught a silhouette, then a flash, then error, signal lost. Level 3 was the line, not the one they told people about, not the one built for optics. This is where Enoch kept the real operators, former special forces, contracted mercenaries, men who didn't ask questions and didn't leave paper trails. If something broke loose, these were the ones sent to bring it back. But this time, they weren't moving like professionals. They were nervous. Their hands were steady, but their eyes kept flicking toward the monitors, watching the feeds die one by one. The signal from floor 1 was gone. Bio readings fluttered, then dropped flat. The enforcement team? Wiped. No call, no alarm, just silence. The facility commander didn't yell, didn't panic. He stood over the map table, watching dead zones expand across the schematic. He knew what this meant. The last camera that pinged showed bodies, stacked like junk, torn apart by something that didn't even slow down to do it. They'd been trained for high-tier threats, and they went down like nothing. They built this floor to hold back monsters. But Wren wasn't like anything they'd faced before. At least, not anymore. And he was already inside, moving fast, and moving smart. And the question now wasn't if he'd reached the bottom. It was if anyone left alive could slow him down long enough to matter.
We need to stall. Command wants it alive. As much as I'd like to disappoint them, our priority is containment. You two, Floor 2, lockdown procedures. Seal it, but don't engage unless you have to.
The two men nodded and left without a word. One of them was already sweating. The other double-checked his gear like it might save him. The elevator closed behind them. Red lights overhead. A long hallway in front of them. The commander turned back toward the map, just in time to watch another feed go dark. The two men made it to Floor 2. Doors open. Lights were on. Monitors blinked in standby. But there was no one waiting for them. No scientists. No guards. Not even blood. Just silence. They glanced at each other for half a second, but instinct lost to duty. They moved. One went right, the other left. Each to a different panel. Each to do what protocol said had to be done. Floor 2 was meant to be a firewall, a buffer between classified experiments and open slaughter. But silence like that wasn't mercy. That was the eye of the storm. Over the comms, the commander's voice broke through. Rough, tight.
You got 3 minutes. Wren's still on Floor 1. Last seen on Corridor A7. Move fast.
The agents moved quickly. Code entries, thermal gates, safeguards flickering red. Everything they'd trained for. Then, static.
We can't see him on Floor 1. I repeat, no visuals. Pull back.
The agents froze. That's when the sound hit. Metal on metal. But from behind. The elevator shaft. The one connected to Floor 1. It was groaning. Shaking. Down on level 3, the commander heard every word. But he didn't answer. Because he already knew. Wren wasn't supposed to be this strong. But that was before Washington. Before the river. Before the shot. The commander thought back to the reports. The compound. The escape. Everything Enoch thought they understood was broken. He gritted his teeth as the elevator below began to scream. Then he muttered the only thing he could think of.
Goddamn scientist. Always trying to play God.
He turned to the body cam feeds. Watched live as the elevator doors buckled inward. Sparks flew. Then, 2 glowing eyes. Gunfire. Screaming. Then nothing. The feed went dead. He slammed his fist on the table.
But God's not here today. Now we got the devil.
Then he turned to the room. No hesitation.
Men, prepare for combat.
Down below, the metal groaned again. And every man in that room knew. This wasn't a breach anymore. It was a warpath. They were ready. At least, that's what the files would say. Level 3 had everything a containment facility could ask for. Dual elevator choke points, reinforced kill box, fallback positions, overlapping fields of fire. On paper, it was airtight. But paper doesn't bleed. They lined the walls, weapons raised, heart steady. Not calm, not confident, just steady. That kind of steadiness that comes right before panic. Every floor had 2 elevators, one up, one down, a perfect bottleneck, only in theory. Then the sound started. It wasn't loud, not at first, just pressure, steel groaning under weight, then a thud, then breathing, Not mechanical, not filtered, just heavy.
Light 'em up.
Gunfire tore through the room. Muzzle flashes turned the hallway into strobe. Shells hit the floor like rain. The elevator doors glowed red, melting under sheer volume.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
But it did stop. Not because anyone said so, but because no one had anything left to fire. The air was thick with smoke. The heat felt like a furnace, and in that haze, there was silence. There was no movement, no sound, just waiting.
Hold. Hold.
That's how you know it's over. Not when the noise stops, but the feeling you get on the back of your neck, just before chaos. And then the vent gave out. Something dropped behind them, fast and heavy. The first man didn't even get to scream. He just vanished into the fog. A splash of red cut across the smoke like paint, and then the killing started. Wren didn't charge. He carved. One operator hit the wall so hard it cracked. Another was bent backward, spine folding in half. One tried to run, but Wren didn't chase. He waited, then stepped into his path. The commander didn't move. He couldn't. He was frozen, watching the slaughter, listening to the screams, trying to speak. But no one was left to hear him. When the smoke cleared, the room wasn't a kill box anymore. It was just a grave. Bodies everywhere, limbs twisted, bullet holes still steaming in the walls. He looked down. His hands were shaking, covered in something warm, but not sweat. He didn't see Wren, not until the breath hit the back of his neck. He turned, but it was too late. Wren was behind him, and he was calm. And he was holding him up by the throat, like a man picking up a child.
You look like someone in charge. I have questions, and I need answers. Tell me where you keep the compound you used on me, and I might let you live.
And that's where my feed died. That's where they say the footage ends. The rest, cut, scrubbed, erased by Enoch, no doubt. They don't want you to see what happened next. But I do. Wren's not just a monster in a Blacksite anymore. He's awake. He's angry. And he's hunting for the truth. And for power. I've begun decrypting what's left. Trying to find that lost data. The data's fractured. But I'm getting closer. And when I get it, I'll show you everything. We'll follow him to the bottom and see which devil comes out on the other side. I won't stop until the data and the truth are restored. And if you want to know when I put up the rest of the feed, like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that when the data is restored, I can show you the rest of the story. And until then, remember, it's true if you believe it.